Vamos con un viejo amigo del festival que espero que esté ahí conectado porque si no me voy a quedar aquí un poco marciano. Samu, ¿estás por ahí? Samuel Molina Fukui.
¿Qué tal, Antonio? Aquí estoy,
Y el gran
desde casa
Joe
este año.
Madureira. Desde casa, qué triste. Joe, nice to meet you again. You probably won't remember, but I did interview you like 8 years ago in Rome, I think it was.
Oh, in Rome. Okay. Yeah, you look very familiar. So nice to meet you again.
I hope you're doing fine, and thanks a lot for being here in the festival and opening a window to your daily life. And I leave you in good hands.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you later, guys. I leave you with Samuel Fukui, who will be interviewing Joe Madureira.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Antonio. Thanks to the Festival Financiers to invite me once again. It's my pleasure to talk with Joe Madureira this time. And first of all, this 2020 year. It's very strange for all of us. How have you been dealing with the pandemic so far?
It's been challenging for us, just like everyone else. I think, both on a personal level and like everyone else. I'm a parent. I have 2 kids, and in business, like at the studio, we're trying to make games under these circumstances. It's not ideal, but we've sort of found our ways to do it that work, and we're still learning new tricks. Hopefully it won't last for much longer, but we're doing okay. I honestly don't think that we've been impacted as much as we first thought that it was going to be. Thank God for technology, right? We have so many ways to be able to communicate now at all times. So I can honestly say it hasn't really impacted the quality of the game. It takes longer to get some things done and get all eyes on it. It's not as easy as when we were just right next to each other and it was like, hey, come look at this. Now there's a lot of Zoom calls and whatnot, but we're doing it. A lot of studios are having to deal with the same stuff. So I just feel fortunate that we're still in a industry that we can actually still do our job and make it happen. So my heart goes out to a lot of people that don't have the same luxury.
Absolutely. So as a game developer myself, I'm very curious about one thing. You are an acclaimed comic book artist. You have done a lot of work for comic books. You had and you have a great career there. Why did you jump from comic to video games? And do you regret the decision? Or are you happy with the decision?
No, I'm happy. It's interesting. I've always been a gamer since I was a kid. I probably was playing games before I had ever even seen a comic, but I was drawing all the time, and I knew like art was probably going to be something I did because that's all I did. Like I didn't do well in school at all. I was an artist, and just through my career in comics, I made a lot of contacts in the game industry and animation studios, whatever. They would be like, hey, you should come work here. And at some point I was like, wow, I could work in video games, seriously? Because even when I was doing Battle Chasers, a lot of the influence for that comic came from games. I was playing like Final Fantasy and Suikoden and all that good stuff, Lunar, and like at that time it was all being there weren't really any comics like that in the US at all, and so that was kind of like where I was able to channel a lot of that energy into. But for a variety of reasons, like personal reasons and business reasons, once I got like the real opportunity to break into the game industry, I just felt like I needed to do it. Like a now or never. You just get that feeling. It's like, I'm going to try this. I honestly didn't think I'd stay in games. I thought I'll try this for a year or two and it'll probably fail and I'll just go back and do comics. It's fine. But I'm still doing it. It's been like 16 years or something. I don't know. I don't know how long it's been. It's something like that. And Yeah, still here. I love games. I love developing games. Each one is different. Each one has its own challenges. And as technology advances, it's just like keeps changing, which is cool. Like I'm excited about that aspect of it. I still love comics and I would love to do it someday, but yeah, I have no regrets at this point.
Is it what you expected before developing games, or did it has surprised you in a way, or something specific that you were unaware, and it's a good or bad surprise maybe?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into, to be honest. But like Han Solo's words, "Never tell me the odds." That's kind of I've noticed in my life the best things that I accomplish, it's like when I know very little about it, because I think you can scare yourself out of trying anything if you know the risks and the work involved. But I honestly didn't know like what I was getting into. I just knew I wanted to do it. Same with comics, to be honest. It was like, I don't know, how do you do this? And you learn as much as you can, and then you just jump in. And so for me, it was very eye-opening. It was a big learning experience for me, even just on the level of like being social and dealing with other people. Like in comics, I was in my room by myself with my radio on, listening to music. That was it. I didn't have to like communicate with dozens of other people. And so it's very different, but it's exciting and fun. And obviously, you shouldn't jump into anything without knowing what you're getting into. It's good to be informed. But I think in my particular case, it just worked out that, like learning as you go is just kind of the way that I do stuff anyway. It doesn't matter what it is. It's kind of like, if I'm excited about it, I'll just try it and learn from it. Like it's not like you succeed right away, but
yeah, that's definitely a good attitude. But considering the differences, your starting point is more or less similar. How do you think the creative process differ in these different art spheres?
The creative process it's pretty different. I think in comics, you're telling a visual story, and I think if you can visualize the story and you can pretty much draw what's in your mind, that's a lot different than the constraints of, hey, I have an idea. How long is this going to take? Oh, it will take like 3 months. We don't have that tech in, 18 people are going to have to work on this for 3 months. So if you make a mistake, it's different, right? Everything's very calculated, very thought out. It's quite a different development process. There's a lot more voices in it, but that like is a good thing too, right? There, like it has its own cool aspects of it, having so many contributors to it. But it's you definitely go into it with a much different approach. Comics is like, here's the story. I want to draw this. I know I can draw this, and that's it. Get a badass colorist, inker, whatever. But games is a different animal.
Yeah, and games change a lot during the development process, right?
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like sometimes what you thought of in your head actually isn't good when you execute it. And then it's like, do we spend time on the execution of this? Maybe it will get better, but it might not. You might just have to throw the whole thing away and do something else. So, it is a game. It's a living thing. Sometimes the best part of the game is not something you even had in mind when you started. It just like crops up in the middle of development. So I think reacting to it and navigating those surprises and how your team manages that is one of the keys to like, a great studio and guys that make really good games. But it's a challenge, every project is different.
Yeah, that's the power of paper, right? Everything on papers look cool and can work, but in games it's different.
Yeah, that's why comics is like paper, right? It's
Yeah.
like I can make it cool on paper.
Yeah. So yesterday we had the first gameplay trailer for Ruin King, the game you are working on right now. It's the first title of Riot Forge. First, can you introduce the title to everyone if no one's still don't know about it?
Yeah, Ruin King, League of Legends story is a single player RPG. It focuses on Bilgewater and the Shadow Isles, which are two settings in League of Legends that are pretty well known to players. There's 6 playable champions and turn-based combat. The combat's very strategic. We introduced the lane initiative system, which creates a lot of cool situations in combat where you'll may have to like mix up your strategies. Our combat party has 3 champions, so out of the 6, you'll be swapping your champions in and out depending on the situation and like play style. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun taking on the League of Legends world and bringing it to an RPG.
And how the project started in the beginning? How did you manage to work with such a huge IP? Did you approach to Riot, or they did approach you?
It was the craziest thing. We were really thinking about what was next for the studio, and for us, you know, we were already planning Battle Chasers 2. You know, there's a lot of stuff that didn't make it into the game or new ideas we had as we were developing it, and so we were starting to lay the groundwork for that, and you know, doing meetings and stuff, and then Riot approached us and said, hey, we love Battle Chasers, how would you like to do like an RPG in the League of Legends universe? And you know, we were like, oh man, how would that work? It's so big, like there's so many champs, how do we narrow it down? So there was that initial like shock of like, could we do this? And as we started talking through it, you know, we got really excited about it on both sides, I think. And you know, because you don't ever really get a chance to experience those champions from the MOBA in any other, you know, sometimes there's like the really cool short films or, you know, trailers and stuff, but really the characters interacting with each other and having like conversations and relationships with each other is something that is not really done right now in League of Legends. So that was like a really cool opportunity. That's what excited us about it.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking working with superheroes, as you have been working on comic books, usually is one superhero, maybe a small group of superheroes. But here in the Riot universe, in the League of Legends universe, you have a lot of champions, like you said. How do you pack everything, all the stories, all the relationships, and all the abilities in a such a small game, or not a small but more focused game?
Yeah, it was it was challenging at first. You know, I literally went through the entire list of champions at the time, and you know, the first list probably had like 25 champs on it, and the next one had like 10. And once we settled on the setting of Bilgewater, because that was the one that the studio really got excited about. It's this like, it's got like this darker vibe of like roguish characters, trust no one, you know, people from all over different parts of Runeterra gather there. So we thought it'd be really interesting. And then setting it after Burning Tides, you know, Misfortune is trying to sort of gain control of the city. She's taken out Gangplank, but you know, trying to like establish her rule in Bilgewater is not as easy as you know, she hoped it would be. And now there's like this threat from the Shadow Isles, the Ruined King emerges. And so I knew like right off the bat, Alawi was one of the ones that just stayed on the list like all the time. She's just really awesome. And you know, the fact that she and Misfortune have a history together already, and they're both in Bilgewater, seemed like a great anchor for the story. And then it was just a matter of like pulling in other champs that supported that story. And that helped us narrow it down, because otherwise it would be very difficult, because I would want to do like a Marvel Civil War event where we just have like 40 champions running around somehow.
Maybe for the sequel.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it was a process, but I'm confident that we chose the right characters. We have a good mix of Bilgewater local characters and then champs from outside of Bilgewater that are sort of visiting, that can give players like they're experiencing Bilgewater for the first time along with the new player and reacting to it. Braum is fun in any group, right? You kind of we didn't want the tone to get too dark, so he provides a little bit of comic relief here and there. So it really is it was about the characters' interactions with each other and the story that helped us narrow it down.
Do you feel any pressure to work in such a big IP, or you are already used to the pressure of fans? Because obviously Marvel fans and DC fans, fans of comic books are also passionate, but the League of Legends community is, I would say, more passionate.
Yes. So two things to that. I definitely got used to, I got a thick skin working at Marvel. When I took on X-Men, I was very young, and there was a lot of resistance. Like, a lot of people didn't like what I was doing on Uncanny X-Men at the time. And I kind of, like, back then we got mail, like physical mail, and Marvel would package up like a box of fan mail and send it to me. And I would read it all exciting. And, like, you would read some pretty mean mail. And that's kind of like turned into like social media and stuff like that. I probably don't engage as much as I should. And so like Riot does an amazing job of engaging with the community and understanding what the players want and what they like. And like, I kind of have like this filter, like Riot kind of is like the voice of the fans. And it's like, they are very confident about where they want League of Legends to be and where it's going to go, and that really comes from like the League of Legends players and fans. And so like for us, like we just kind of like relied on their experience and their knowledge, and it's like, hey, if they think this is going to be successful, if they like this idea, I think fans are going to love it. Whereas I think in engaging with the fans directly, I think it's helped us, at least on the level of not being so nervous about expectations. I just try not to think about it. It's like, hey, we're just going to try to make the coolest game we can. We think this is cool. Riot knows their audience. I think if they believe in it, so do we. Let's do this. Because like I said, you can scare yourself out of doing anything. So, we really love the game we created, and I just hope fans will love it too.
You are, I suppose you are a very skillful artist, but usually people knows about your 2D art, right? Because comic books are 2D, but video games are 3D, and this game is 3D, right? So we've seen in the trailer. Is something that bothers you or limits you in any way, the change of perspective, or is the other way around, that having the depth of the 3D is helping you to tackle the art?
It's added a little more. I think my designs are a little more well thought out now, that I have to think about, how it's going to look from the gameplay camera. And, trying to think about, like, you can't hide any part of the character. It's like, it needs to look cool from the angles you're going to see it at. So I think it's helped me actually just become a little better of a character designer and simplifying my designs a little, because oftentimes the camera may be zoomed out or they'll be smaller. And it's been fun to sort of like tackle the challenge of making things read well, without leaning on detail so much, just like solid design, things like that. I actually, if anything, I think animation influences me more, because I suddenly think about how things are going to move often, whether it's a creature or a character or whatever, how it will attack, and like the overall personality of it. I just kind of, when you're drawing on paper, you just kind of draw what what feels right, but like, it's going to have, 12 different attacks and like a walk and a run and like, like how would this guy with 4 arms run? And he also has wings. Like maybe that's too complicated. That kind of stuff is not anything I would ever even have thought of before. But I have fun with it though. I don't find it limiting as much as just like an interesting new thing to think about.
Is there any other video game genre that you would like to work in the future? Have you thought about it?
A video game genre?
Yeah, you have worked in RPGs so far. You said that it was a huge influence for you. Any other game genre that maybe sports?
No, I mean, for us, at Airship, it's always going to be adventure,
Okay.
fantasy, RPG elements. I think we have an itch to get back to, third person action games. I love MMOs. So like creating a world would be so awesome. Like, whether it's like World of Warcraft or Skyrim or something like that, I think there's a lot of fun in just creating like a rich world like that. But on the flip side, I still have like a little like 2D side scroller, like Castlevania like game, like that a bunch of us would love to do. So, our passions are all over the place, but it's probably never going to be like, a racing game or a sports title or something like that. We're just nerdy fantasy guys. So.
And what about superhero games? Would you like to work on one? Sadly, many video games based on superheroes franchise haven't had huge success, at least in critics. I would say, except the Batman Arkham series, other games didn't have so much luck being successful. So maybe something that you would like to join the two worlds, superheroes, comics, and video games?
Yeah, it's funny because like even to me, like I consider within the world of Runeterra, the League of Legends champs are kind of like superheroes in their own world. And I always thought about, even in Battle Chasers, it had the flavor of like an X-Men comic, I feel like, but the setting was fantasy. It just wasn't set in modern day, but it still felt like a superhero comic. I think that at least is what I was channeling into it. I mean, it definitely felt like more like X-Men than it did of like Conan or something like that at that time. And so to me, like, I don't personally get as excited about like the modern day setting of, I think if I did do a superhero story, it would have to be in like a near future sci-fi world or something that pushed the boundaries of Earth a little bit more. So it's not, what are the locations? Hey, I'm running through a hospital, a shopping mall. There's a lot of awesome games created with those settings, but for me, like creatively, I love fantasy worlds. It's just where my heart is, and so I will always try to channel it back to that. But like a lot, like I said, like we still get to use these characters like in a superhero like way. So I think it like kind of scratches that itch for me anyway.
Okay, so now that you mentioned that you see the League of Legends champions more or less like the typical superheroes in comic books, which League of Legends champion is your favorite, and which superhero is your favorite?
Ooh, it's such a hard. I mean, superhero Spidey will always be my favorite. Okay. He's been my favorite since I was a kid, and I still like can't shake maybe it's nostalgia or whatever, but it doesn't matter if it's a game or a comic or animated or whatever it is. Like I just love that character. It makes me feel like a kid again. The Spider-Verse movie was just amazing, and getting to see all the different Spider-Men throughout history were amazing. So Spidey's my favorite. My favorite champion, it may seem like a cop-out because she's one of the lead characters in Ruin King, but Illaoi like I said, she really was like on the list from the beginning, even before I knew like that much about her. And just visually, she's so fun to draw. Like she's just this big, powerful tank of a woman, and her sort of like take what you want attitude just makes her so badass. Like, but she also has this faith aspect of like she has this strong faith, and she gets challenged by like sticking to it, even if the things that are presented to her and in front of her like are sort of challenging her. That's kind of like a crisis she deals with throughout the game. And for that reason, I just think she's like the most intriguing character for me, at least in the Ruined King.
Okay. Did you play the latest Spider-Man video game? Now that you mentioned you like
with Miles, I haven't played it yet, but it's like on my list. It looks
okay.
Amazing. I love what they did with it. That makes it look a lot more like the movie. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I assume that you are now focused on the current project, but given your experience so far, do you imagine yourself keep working in League of Legends games with Riot, or maybe try the same experience with other IPs, or are you thinking about the future for you in video games, or not yet?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of thought and discussion going into what's next for the studio, and with League of Legends involvement, or in future Riot Forge stuff. But right now, it really is going to come down to how well we nail this game and how it's received by fans. So we're just trying to make it as good as possible.
Would you like to return to Darksiders, for example, in a future if you had the opportunity? Is something that is close for you, or do you think that it could have a future if somehow magic happens and is given to you?
Yeah, I mean, we love the Darksiders universe, and obviously we were there at the beginning, a lot of us, and it's something I would always love to return to. It's like the Darksiders franchise is in very good hands though now with Gunfire, and so like hopefully they do something with it. We're still good friends with those guys. A lot of ex-Vigil guys went there, so I think it's probably unlikely for us, but I definitely would never rule it out. That's for sure.
And what about comic books? What is the future for you in that regard? I suppose that even you are working with video games, you are still a comic book artist, and it's something that you are not going to stop doing. So is it something that we are going to see in the future in your part, a new comic book?
Yeah. So, I mean, up until now, I'd only done like covers and things like that on the side. There wasn't really much time for anything else, but I am trying to slowly but surely get 3 new issues of Battle Chasers done. That will continue the series from where it left off in
Finally.
Yeah, and it's been very hard to find the time to do it. But it is, I honestly don't want to work on any comic stuff unless it's like Battle Chasers related, so I can get those books out. A lot of people are waiting for them, so it is happening. I just have to, it's like a personal undertaking right now outside of Airship, and I just have to like find a way to do it. As you know, it's a full-time job in its own right. So, but we'll see. Let's get this game done, and then I'll have a little more time to do it.
And you said that at the beginning that you have been influenced a lot by RPG games and adventure games. We talk about different games during this conversation, but what do you usually play in your own time as a gamer? What do you like?
It really varies. I love RPGs. The game I'm playing right now is Hades on my Switch. Everyone's at the studio going crazy about it. So I just started Hades. That's super fun. At the same time, I just started Last of Us Part 2. So they're very, very different games, but I love them for different reasons. Ghost of Tsushima was the last game I played for a decent length of time. It really depends. You know, I love narrative games. I love RPGs. And to be honest, the new WoW expansion has caught my eye, and I'm like, oh great, now I got to go check out World of Warcraft again. So my taste is all over the place.
Cool. So we only have 1 minute left. Is something that you could talk about Ruin King that it would excite people about it? It's something that you are particularly proud of to invite people to check it out?
Yeah, I mean, you know, first of all, it's the first time, if you're a League fan, you've heard about the Ruin King for years, and it's cool to finally unveil him and experience a little bit of his story. And then, you know, I would just say that you don't need any knowledge of League of Legends to jump in and enjoy the game. We made it pretty accessible to everyone. And yeah, I love the champions together. I love their interactions. We had a lot of fun with it, and I hope people enjoy it.
Cool. So it's going to be released next year, right?
Yep.
There's no specific date, right?
We don't have a release date yet, but it'll be next year for sure.
Okay. You don't want to say the release date here in exclusive, no?
No.
Okay.
There's assassins watching me right now.
Yeah. I see them. Okay, so thanks for your time, Joe. That's all for us now. Thanks for coming here to Fun and Serious. And we are going to definitely check the Ruin King League of Legends. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me. And I hope you enjoy it.
Sure.
Have a good show.
Thanks. See you.
Bye-bye.